truth and light, where the spirits dance all night. The Creator gang shines bright, guiding us with all their might. Trumpets sound across the sky as we raise our voices high, praising the one most high, under the OAHSPE's watchful eye. We sing songs of love and grace in this sacred space. For the Creator gang we embrace, their wisdom we chase, with trumpets playing in tune, under the silvery moon. We dance until the morning sun, this connection never undone. Harmony in every beat, our faith is concrete. Through the pages of the OAHSPE, ancient wisdom on display, teaching us the righteous way, leading us to a brighter day. With each trumpet blast, we're reminded of the past and the love that will ever last in this divine contrast. United in spirit, we uplift and hear it. We sing songs of love and grace in this sacred space. For the Creator gang we embrace, their wisdom we chase, with trumpets playing in tune, under the silvery moon. We dance until the morning sun, this connection never undone. We sing songs of love and grace in this sacred space. For the Creator gang we embrace, their wisdom we chase, with trumpets playing in tune, under the silvery moon. We dance until the morning sun, this connection never undone.
They plan to crucify me at the 9th hour. Charges against me, attempts to arrest me. Apostate Jews, Pharisees and Sadducees. I spoke parables to the multitude at Galilee. Paint pictures with parables that'll fill up a gallery. Zealous Jews, killers on a salary. Jealous and confused, heart harking, burning like calories. Restore the blind, raise the dead from the coffin, bruh. But my command make angels sing like an orchestra. The scribes took notes saying I'm a sorcerer. Reports above my head, flying sorcerers. Ascending and descending lights from the Etherian heights. 9th hour daytime turn to midnight. The ground started vibrating hard as the temples and synagogues are destroyed by God. The children of God can make God. Yeah. That's that Lion of Judah rap right there, son. What up, family? What going on here today, yo? Salute to the Creator gang. The boy Selah, Shalom just decided to hop on for a few. I ain't been live in a couple of days. Let me show face. You know what I mean? Gotta get into this vibe. You know what I mean? Ain't had no plans to hop on. I just hopped on, so hop in. Yo, Shannon, what's good? I see you, King. Hey, them shirts is flying, boy. I got all type of. Last time I was live, somebody asked me about a shirt, but you wasn't in the chat. They were like, yo, where can I get one of the shirts from? I was like, yo, get it from my man Shannon. My man Shan got him. You know what I mean? Salute to the God Shan. If y'all want y'all Creator Gang t-shirts, he's the one you need to holler at. He got them for a nice price. Get at him. Salute. Tikva, where's that sister? How's Savannah treating you out there, yo? You good? Salute to the sister Tikva. Listen, Yasso fit. Oh, my boy Yasso. Yo, Yasso, I seen that video you posted with the cloud over the mountain looking like a goddamn spaceship and shit. Looking like a chariot. Salute to the God of Yasso Fitz, man. Driving trucks all across the goddamn USA, getting pictures for us to see. For those who can't make those journeys, he take pictures and videos and he bring it back to the family and let us see. Salute to the righteous God. Yes, Yahweh. Lodge up yourself. Big up yourself. You know what I mean? Create a brother right there. Create a gang brother. Messiah King. Lodge up yourself. Elizabeth Wagwan, sister. How you been, yo? Long time. Everybody in the building. See, one thing with the Creator Gang, we got all nationalities in the Creator Gang. Now, according to the Bible, the Hebrews will tell you that salvation is only for the Israelites. But who gives a damn if salvation is only for the Israelites when your ass going to be in the kingdom chopping off goat heads? You know what I mean? Who gives a damn about being in the kingdom if you're going to be chopping off goat heads in the new kingdom, New Jerusalem? The vision that Ezekiel had in chapter 40 through 48, when Ezekiel envisioned all the 12 tribes, David is going to be the ruler, that's a future prophecy. And in that prophecy, they still offering up goat heads and bullocks and sin offerings. And that's supposed to be a future prophecy. That comes after Yeshua. So if it comes after Yeshua and we're doing sin offerings, what are we really doing? So don't let people confuse you to think that just because you're not saved in Jesus' name, that it's the end of the world or you're damned. No. Ask a Christian, well, what is the purpose of salvation? Ask the Hebrew Israelite, well, what is the purpose of salvation? What is the purpose of being saved in Jesus' name? In Yahweh's name? What is the purpose? And don't put according to the Bible. That's going to end it all right there. Great Spirit, Daughter Jehovah, Messiah, sister. Yes, Messiah. Let me let the music play. Let me let the rhythm. Let me get it's a vibes. It's a blood clot vibes. Run the rhythm. Yes, sir. I'll come forward with this vibes. You know what I mean? Y'all know the vibes. Yes, sister, make sure to get them bitters. You know what I mean? Let me run that. Make sure to get the bitters. Sick. Make sure to get your bittersweet herbals. You know what I mean? You don't want to be out there sick. You can get the herbals.
Bittersweet herbals. What it tastes is bitter, but the results are sweet. Bittersweetherbals.com.
Yes, family. Run the rhythm.
Bittersweet herbals. What it tastes is bitter, but the results are sweet. Bittersweetherbals.com.
Yes, family, make sure to get your bitters. You know the blood clot vibes. Freestyle vibes, you know what I mean? Salute to the righteous God, Malachi Maccabee just touched down in the building. I see you, God. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know what I mean? We up inside. You know, I've been going crazy on the Facebook these last couple of days, engaging in conversation, all type of conversation. But lately, man, we've been exposing Paul, man. You know what I mean? We've been exposing that boy. It's a blood clot vibes. I think the last video I did was on the back dating. You know what I mean? It's a blood clot vibes. Yes, sir. Hit them likes. Subscribe. Yeah, make sure to hit them likes on the way in. I ain't got no particular topic. We just freestyle whatever come to mind. You know what I mean? Behold, I Paul. Yeah, bro. You know what? I'm gonna touch on this vid I was supposed to touch on a while back. I'm gonna just touch on this for a minute. Yeah, let's talk about something different. I'll switch it up. Share my rotten screen for a second. Yeah, let's get right into this. Let's freestyle this shit out, man. Let's freestyle this. It's a blood clot vibes, yes, family. So now, here we got it. We're gonna go into this for a minute. The progression of humans, understanding the function of the brain. Now, this is important when dealing with the human development as a whole. Coming from primitive man to where we stand today. The development, adaptation, the behavior of man all stems from the brain. The brain is the central conduit for the spirit. When they talk about your body got a spirit, the spirit resides in the brain. Central nervous system in the brain. So let's talk about the frontal lobe for a minute. What is the function of the frontal lobe? Let's read. The function of the frontal lobe. The entirety of the frontal cortex can be considered the action cortex, much as the posterior cortex is considered the sensory cortex. It is devoted to action of one kind or another. So this is what its function is based off: skeleton movement, ocular movement, speech control, and the expression of emotions. All have to do with the frontal lobe. In humans, the largest part of the frontal cortex, the prefrontal cortex, or PFC, is responsible for internal, purposeful mental action, commonly called reasoning. Reasoning and your rationalizing of reason is based off the frontal lobe function of the brain. Now, the function of the PFC involves the what? Ability to project future consequences that result from current actions. See that? So you have the ability to reason and rationalize things in the future through the frontal lobe. The PFC function also includes override and suppression of socially unacceptable responses, as well as differentiations of tasks. So we're showing you what the frontal lobe does. Executive function: the frontal lobe is primarily responsible for executive functions like planning, problem solving, decision making, judgment, and working memory. There is a reason why I'm bringing this stuff up. There's a reason why I'm bringing this up. The function of the brain. You're going to see later how it connect. Speech and language. Certain areas within the frontal lobe are involved in what? Language production, particularly the Broca area. The Broca area, which is this part of the brain right here. This part of the brain is responsible for you speaking and writing. The Broca area involved in the expressive aspect of spoken and written language. Production of sentence constrained by rules of grammar and syntax. So you wouldn't be able to write, know nothing, read, speak language if it wasn't for this area of the brain called the Broca. Right? The Broca's area. Now, if you lack the frontal lobe, now if your skull is developed and you lack the frontal lobe, what are the function of a lacking frontal lobe? Pay attention. Now look at the frontal lobe. It's lacking in this individual, right? On a mental state examination of a person with frontal lobe damage may show speech problems and reduce verbal fluency. Typically, the person is lacking in insight and judgment. Lacking in insight and judgment. So if you're lacking of the frontal lobe, this is what's going to be your reality, a lack of judgment, but does not have marked cognitive abnormalities or memory impairment, as measured, for example, by the mini mental state examined. Now, Damage to the frontal lobe can lead to significant changes in personality, including what? Impulsivity, dishabitation, apathy, and inappropriate social behavior. So when the frontal lobe is damaged or is lacking, these are the results: lack of insight and judgment, speech problem, inappropriate social behavior. A lack of the frontal lobe will result in severe impairments to cognitive abilities, including difficulties with planning, decision-making, impulse control, social behavior, and motor functions, essentially rendering someone unable to perform complex tasks or even basic actions due to the frontal lobe's crucial role in executive functions. In short, a person without a frontal lobe would have significant trouble with what? Reasoning, organizing thoughts, and initiating actions, potentially leading to drastic personality changes and a lack of awareness of their own limitations. So keep in mind, if you lack the frontal lobe, this is your reality. This is your reality. This is what you're going to be lacking as a human. Now look, let's go into the partial lobe. I said partial lobe. Let me see how to pronounce this properly so I don't be running around here saying the wrong thing. How you pronounce it? Parietal. All right, so the parietal lobe is also important for proripus. Let me pull that word up right there too. Yeah, these words just got me today. Let me see how to pronounce this word. Y'all give me a minute so I can say these words correctly for you. Proprioception. Good night. All right. Proprioception. That's a goddamn word for your ass. Proprioception. So the parietal lobe is also important for the proprioception. That is a very fancy science word, but it basically means processing information about how our body is positioned and moving. So this part of the lobe deals with movement of the body, positioning of the body. For example, parietal, I keep forgetting how to say that word. For example, our parietal lobe helps our brain understand whether we are standing up, laying down, hanging upside down on a monkey bars. So I'm showing you how the brain is responsible for these things, our daily activities, right? And which part of the brain is responsible for what? So the processing information, that's what perceptible means. Properceptions. How you pronounce that again? These are some challenging words right here. How you say it? Proprioception is the sense of self movement, force, and body position. Self movement, force, and body position. So this part of the brain deals with body positioning, motion, like it states, whether you're standing up, lying down. The major sensory inputs from the skin, touch, temperature, and pain receptors rely through the thalamus to the parietal gland. How you pronounce that shit again? When you ain't used to pronouncing words, but you forget parietal lobe. So now look, it says skin, touch, temperature, and pain receptors rely through the thalamus to the parietal lobe. Right? Now, several areas of the parietal lobe are important in language processing. The parietal lobe plays important roles in integrating sensory and information from various parts of the body. Knowledge of what? Numbers and their relations. Its function also includes processing information relating to the sense of touch. Portions of the parietal lobe are involved in visual spatial processing. Visual, let me see how you pronounce that. That's another word. Let me see how you pronounce this one. Visual spatial. Okay, visual spatial processing refers to the ability to perceive, analyze, and synthesize, manipulate, and transfer visual patterns and images. See that? This is what this part of the brain is about. Right? Now, look at this. The posterior parietal cortex receives somatosensory and visual input, which then, through motor signals, control movement of the arms, hands, and eyes. Right? So now, what is the lack of the parietal lobe? What is the lack? So if somebody lacks it, what is it? Hold on. Let me get that word again. I gotta say that shit over time. The parietal lobe. So the parietal lobe syndrome consists of getting lost, inability to learn new routes. So if you lack the parietal lobe, getting lost, inability to learn new routes will affect you. Neglecting part of the body or space, contralateral neglect, which can impair many self-care skills such as dressing and washing. The lack of the parietal lobe, I keep tripping up on that word. The lack of the parietal lobe even have such to do with you dressing and washing your ass. If you like the parietal lobe, you may forget to wash your ass. See a whole bunch of niggas walking around here stinking and dirty, like, man, you ain't take a shower, nigga. Nigga lacking that parietal lobe. Parietal lobe. All right, a person would most likely have difficulty reading, recognizing people and objects, and having a comprehensive awareness of his or her own body and limbs and their positioning in space, right? So we're showing you how important your brain functions is. The very things we sleep on every day, lifting your hand, right? Being conscious of where you at, knowing the routines to the store and the grocery store, all that got to do with this part of the brain, the parietal lobe. The parietal lobe. Now let's go to the temporal lobe, right? So we're showing you the functions and the dysfunctions of these particular lobes of the brain. So now we're at the temporal lobe. What is the temporal lobe responsible for? Let's see. The temporal lobe is in charge of lots of things, including hearing, language, and memory. It makes sense that the temporal lobe helps the brain process sound because it is so close to the ears. Since the temporal lobe is in charge of our sense of hearing, it also plays an important role in what? Music. It helps us process parts of music like rhythm and pitch, right? The temporal lobe also houses two very important structures called the Wernicke's area and the Broca's area, where we showed earlier, which helps us form words to communicate and listen to words to understand language. See that? This is the temporal lobe we're talking about. Memory is a very complex process. So many parts of the brain work together to help us remember things. The temporal lobe is in charge of a very specific part of memory that allows us to remember words, objects, faces, and more. So we're showing you the importance of the temporal lobe, right? The temporal lobe is involved in processing sensory input into derived meanings for the appropriate retention of visual memory, language comprehension, and emotion association. The temporal lobe communicates with the hippocampus and plays a key role in formation of explicit long-term memory, modulated by the, how you pronounce this? Let's see real quick. Amygdala. Wow. How you pronounce that? They be having some weird words in the science world. All right, give me 1 second. How to pronounce that? And they don't even show me. Hold on. Let's see what it say real quick. How to pronounce amygdala. Amygdala. I would have never caught that out. So now, amygdala, the amygdala, the temporal lobe communicates with the hippocampus and plays a key role in the formation of explicit long-term memory, modulated by the amygdala. Now, it mentions the hippocampus. What is the hippocampus responsible for? Here you see where the hippocampus is even located. So the hippocampus works with the temporal lobe. Now, the hippocampus is a part of the limbic system and plays important roles in the consolidation of information from short-term memory to long-term memory. In the spatial memory that enables navigation. So now, we're showing you how important it is, how important the temporal lobe is associated with the hippocampus. Now, the hippocampus deals with memory. It says memory. The hippocampus is responsible for converting short-term memories into long-term memories. It also helps with, let's say this how you pronounce this word right too. Yeah, we don't get all these words right. Spatial, all right. Spatial memory, which is the ability to learn about and be aware of one's surroundings. And verbal memory, which is the ability to remember that word to say. Now, the hippocampus is involved in emotional processing, including anxiety and avoidance behavior. The temporal lobe is involved in primary auditory perception, such as hearing. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, these functions of the brains and these dysfunctions of the brain, because it plays a part in the development of early man. Now, what is the lack of the temporal lobe? Dysfunction or damage in the temporal lobe may cause various symptoms throughout the body, including memory impairments, changing in the emotional state, and hallucinations. A lack of temporal lobe would significantly impair a person's ability to process auditory information, form new memories, understand language, recognize faces, and regulate emotions, leading to several difficulties with learning, communication, and daily function. Essentially, it will result in major problems with memory, language, comprehension, and visual perceptions due to the critical role the temporal lobe plays in these functions. Now, keep that in mind. So the temporal lobe is responsible for a lot of your comprehension and understanding of things. Now, look, let's go to the optical lobe. Now, what is the optical lobe? We know that's dealing with what? Sight. The optical lobe houses our visual cortex, so it helps us see. The optical lobe receives information from millions of cells in our eyes and process all of that information to help us understand what we are seeing. This job is incredibly complex. The cells in our eyes collect information about light, and then our optical lobe has to turn that information into a picture with color, texture, size, distance, and so much more. Since we have two eyes, our optical lobe also has to combine information from both eyes so that we only see one picture. That's a lot of work for one lobe, the optical lobe. What was the concept of evolution before Darwin's theory? The question is not evolution, but what is the final form of evolution? Now, look at this. The first race of mortals, Book of Jehovah, 6:11. Look what it states. Out of Simo I made man, and man was like a tree, but dwelling in hot darkness. And I called his name Asu, primitive man. Book of Safar. Asu, panic, in parentheses. A man in aboriginal state, before he used words, before he congregated, a very young child, one who knows no word of expression. The race of man in its first age, as applied to Corpor, the earth, Asu, the first habitable age. Now, these are the three classifications of man, in a sense. You have the Anthropus, the Pithecus, and the Homo. These are the three classifications. First, you got the Anthropus, which is Greek for human. Now, this is the skull of an Anthropus Greek. I said Anthropus Greek. Here's a skull of an Anthropus, right? Now, look at the skull. Look at the skull of this primitive creature, this primitive man, right? Look at the frontal lobe. We just read the dysfunction of the lack of the frontal lobe, the temporal lobe, right? And if you lack these functions, we read the dysfunctions that come with it. So primitive man wasn't running around here being stupid because he just didn't know. He didn't have the brain capacity at the time to know. OAHSPE Bible, first book of the First Lords, chapter 1, verse 4 states, and the name of the first race was Asu, because they were of the earth only, primitive man. So now, here are your classifications. You got the Sahal Athopus out of Africa, dated to 7 million. This is the oldest that they have on record as a so-called human hominin species. Dates back to 7 million. This is the oldest, the Sahal Athopus. Then you got the Kenya Anthropus, coming out of Kenya, Ethiopia. Paranthropus robustus, dated to 2.01 million. This is the date they got for this primitive man. But look at the brain capacity. Look at the brain capacity. This is why primitive man wasn't building structures and wasn't highly intelligent at the time, because they lacked the brain capacity for those functions as based off the skull. But you notice they got more lobe in the back of the skull than in the front of the skull, right? Like, this is protruding a lot compared to up here. Now look, here is the Pithecus. The word Pithecus in ancient Greek means ape or monkey. So now, this is where you got some people believe that we evolved from monkeys. Our common ancestor is a monkey. You got or ape, the great apes, right? So here you have Pithecus, ancient Greek name for ape or monkey. And look at the brain capacity. Look at the frontal lobe. Still not fully developed, still kind of compressed and pushed back, right? So I'm showing you the skull development at the same time, the evolution of the skull. A lot of times animals can't do what we do is because brain capacity. So you have Ardipithecus, dated to 5.8 million years, right? And here's the rest of the Pithecus, there's 6 of them. Ardipithecus ramidus, Australopithecus, Anaminus, Australopithecus, Afarinus, Australopithecus africanus, Australopithecus gahar, dated to 2.6 to 2.5 million years. So that's the Pithecus reign, the Pithecus lineage. So you got the Pithecus lineage we shown here, and then you got the Anthropus lineage we got here. These are separate lineage of ancestors, right? So one is first, so this is human. Going back to 7 million, they classify Anthropus as human. They classify Pithecus as ape. Now when we come next, we come to Homo, the Latin word meaning human beings or man, right? And look at the skull. Look at the skull. You see more of the frontal lobe. You see more of the temporal lobe, right? So in the hominin, the Homo, you got the Homo Rudolfinus, how you pronounce that? Rudolfinus, 1.9 million. You got Homo ergandus. You got Homo habilis, Homo georgicus, Homo erectus, Homo antecessor, Homo Hildeberger. How you forget that? How you pronounce it? Hildebergen genus. This is Homo Neanderthal and Homo florens. And Homo sapiens going back to 200,000 years old. So these are your 3 classifications right here. Right? These are your 3 classifications right here. The 3 classifications, the Anthropus, the Pithecus, and the Homo.
One of them is ape monkey. Two of them is based off being human. So now, those are your three species on Earth. Now look at this. Look at the Anthropus, the oldest creature, the oldest species. Look at his physical feature. What did Asu of the Earth only? Look at his brain. Look at his brain capacity. Look at his, he don't even have a frontal lobe, right? Body size and shape, this species was probably small in size to modern chimpanzees. Brain size is estimated 320 to 380 cc. Skull, rear of the skull has an ape-like appearance, long and narrow based on the skull. Large brow ridge, a presumptive male trait, unlike any of those in the Australopithecine, wider upper facial areas compared to the short lower face. So they're making a cross comparison with the Pithecus to the Arthropus, right? But look now, lack of the frontal lobe, lack of the temporal lobe. This is primitive man we're talking about, right? So what is the lack of the function of the frontal lobe, which primitive man would have lacked? Speech problems with reduced verbal fluency. Typically, the person is lacking insight and judgment, impulsivity, disinhibition, apathy, and inappropriate social behavior, difficulty with planning, decision-making, impulse control, social behavior, motor functions, reasoning, organizing thoughts, and initiation actions, potentially leading to drastic personal change and lack of awareness of their own limitations. So this, what they would have been lacking due to the fact that their brain wasn't developed, fully developed with a frontal lobe nor a temporal lobe. So when we look at the drunks, and we look at primitive man going back, and when we look at the fact that they couldn't comprehend certain things, it wasn't due to their skin color. It wasn't due because they're tall and slender or small and stout or whatever the case may have been, or they're brown and black and white and yellow. It was due to the shape and capacity of the brain, the skull encapsulating the brain. So being that the skull or the frontal lobe is lacking, being that the frontal lobe is lacking, the temporal lobe is lacking, these will be the dysfunctions of primitive man. Lack of the function of the temporal lobe. What it says? A lack of a temporal lobe would significantly impair a person's ability to process auditory information from new memories. Remember? They spoke to the irons trying to get the drunks to understand. They couldn't remember. They couldn't comprehend. A lot of that has to do with brain capacity, understanding language. You remember, man didn't speak at one time. He uttered from the thorax before he started using words and lips. He wasn't developed. The brain wasn't developed in that area. Recognizing faces, regular emotions, leading to severe difficulties with learning communication. So you wonder why the gods was having a hard time with primitive man in the early states? Because his brain wasn't developed. He had to constantly be told over and over what to do. It's like a child. A child's brain is not fully developed. So you got to constantly tell him over and over what to do until it sticks. Now look what it states. And this is why OAHSPE states in the first book of the First Lords, and the name of the first race was called Asu because they were of the earth only. Primitive, and this would have been the mental condition of the Anthropus race. Now look, music and the temporal lobe, right? Remember, if we go to the book of Apollo, son of Jehovah, chapter 3, verse 1 and 4, where it states, I, Apollo, Jehovah's son, proclaimed an age when man on earth did not consider harmony or symmetry or music as gods. So if man was lacking harmony, symmetry, and music, that means he was lacking in the temporal lobe. Because the temporal lobe is what? Let's see what the temporal lobes do again. It makes sense that the temporal lobe helps the brain process sound because it is so close to the ears. Since the temporal lobe is in charge of our sense of hearing, it also plays an important role in what? Music. It helps us process parts of what? Music, like rhythm and pitch. So when Apollo came to the earth, he came to induce this part of the brain. He came to help develop the temporal lobe of the brain with harmony, symmetry, and music. So primitive man would have been lacking in the brain, would have been lacking the temporal lobe. That had to be developed and exercised. You had to learn how to dance. You had to learn rhythm. You had to learn how to ride the beat. Right? All this is dealing with the brain. Homo habilis. This is the homo. Now look at the temporal lobe. Now look how it's pushed up. It's impregnated now. When we come to the homo habilis, look at the brain. Look at this part right here. See that? It's poking out. But when we came and looked at primitive man prior, look at the brain right here. Look at the brain capacity. To that, to this. You see more of the frontal lobe developing when you get to the Homo habilis or the Homo species. The earliest of our ancestors to show a significant increase in brain size, and also the first to be found associated with stone tools, is what? These guys, the Homo habilis. Homo is a Latin word meaning human or man. This is the same genus or group name as the one given to modern humans, and is used to show the close relationships between this species and ours, right? The word habilis is based on the Latin word meaning handy or what? Skillful. This species, known as handyman because stone tools were found near its fossils, remains and is assumed this species had developed the ability to modify stones into tools. Why? Due to brain development, that frontal lobe. Now look what it states here. It states that the Latin word for habilis means handy or skillful. Now let's go to the first book of the First Lords, chapter 1, verse 4. What does it state? It says, and the name of the second race was iron, because they were what? Capable of being taught spiritual things. Now look at this. When you look up the word capable, it's associated with skillful. And when you look up the word skillful, it's associated with capable. See that? Let me see. Right there, see? This is the definition of capable. Having the ability to fitness or quality necessary to do or achieve a specific thing, right? So capable, but then down here, look what it states, skillful. Skillful. So capable and skillful are synonymous with each other. So when you read the word Homo habilis is based on the Latin word meaning handy or skillful or capable, it coincides with the Lord's first book when it describes the iron race as being what? Capable, skillful of being taught spiritual things. When we go to the definition of capable, we see what? Skillful. See that? And what is skillful? Having or knowing skill, a skillful and fielded, well, that's just an example, right? And then skillful, there you have capable right there. There you have it, bang. So skillful and capable are synonymous. There's the proof of that, the definition and the words that are synonymous with it. Skillful, capable, skillful. So when we come to the OAHSPE and we see the word capable here, we could associate that with skillful. And skillful could be associated with capable. So the Homo habilis would have been irons. And when we come back to the skull of the Homo habilis, you see the protruding frontal lobe, which would have the ability and the skill to learn, to know, to build these stone tools. That's why it's important to know the function of the brain. Now look, the bulge of the Broca area, essentially for speech, is visible in what? The Homo habilis brain cast. So these niggas was capable of speech, indicating that this species may have been capable of rudimentary speech. And the average Homo habilis individual is thought to have been about 5 feet tall and 100 pounds, although females may have been smaller. See that? These are small people. Look at what the first book of the First Lords in the OAHSPE, chapter 4, verse 1, look what it states. About this time, man began to use what? his lips and tongue in enunciating words, prior to which he spoke in the thorax. So prior to the Homo habilis, prior to the Homo race, when you're dealing with the Pithecus and the Anthropus race, they were speaking in the thorax. They wasn't developed in the Broca area yet. They wasn't developed in the temporal area yet. That part of the brain wasn't developed. So they lacked speech. But by the time you get to the Homo habilis or the Homo races, you see the brain capacity being more developed. So they said these were capable of speech. See that? Now, behold, neither man nor angels on the red star comprehend the harmony of my works. And because of their own disharmony, they deny me, being blind to my person. Go, my son, and make them adulterers of harmony, symmetry, and music for what long season? So they may become organically attuned from the time of their birth upward. So from the time of Apollo, this is when the development and the change of the genome started taking place. The shaping of the physiology of men started taking place roughly 20,000 years ago during the time of Apollo. And the purpose of Apollo was to bring symmetry, music, and harmony to the race of men. So if man didn't have that at the time, that means they lacked in the brain that department. I remember I remember the earth, O Father, men and women with long hair hanging down, and hands with claw nails, fierce and warlike, and hair in tufts and short curled, whose eyes were drawn down like lions, and mouth wide and falling open like a dog that is tired. So here, the gods, the ancestors, when they came to man at this particular time, is showing you how primitive man was. Niggas wasn't clipping their nails, cutting their heads, shaping them. It wasn't none of that going on. No brushing, no teeth, no taking a shower. It was just man in his rawest form, funky, moving through nature. Ain't no toilet tissue back then. So the gods is just like a child. You got to help develop the child into an adult. You know, if you leave a child to fend for himself, he'll swim in his own vomit. He'll play in his own shit, swim in his own piss. So just imagine come to a people like that haven't learned to develop these traits. In this particular case, dealing with symmetry, harmony, and music. Now look at the book of inspiration. When the earth was ripe for man, then I created him, male and female. I created those of the second creation. And look what it states. And man was dumb like other animals, without speech and without understanding, even less than any other creature that I had created. So it's letting you know that when man first was created, he wasn't walking around as an intelligent being. Just like a child. A child doesn't come into the world knowing all things. He has to be taught. He has to be developed. Same thing with man in the beginning. And man partook of the first and second creation after the manner of every animal on the earth. And I created man with all the characteristics of all of them. I created him, male and female, created I them. See that? And look what it states next. And man was unconscious of his creation. He ain't know who he was. Not knowing where he came from, nor did he know which was his own species. This is the condition of an infant child. Because an infant, a child running around 3 months old, 4 months old, 5 months old, don't know who he is, unconscious of his creation. He don't know who his parents is. He don't know nothing. All that has to be acquired. And who did the acquiring? Who raised man up? Because man was incapable of raising himself up. What Jaja say? I sent my angels to man to teach him who he was. You a black man. You from Africa. And to rouse him up to his what? Capabilities, skill sets for which I created him. And my angels drew from man's side substance and thus took on corporeal forms. And the angels dwelt with man as what? Helpmates to make man understand. So man was pre-developed in his primitive state. The ancestors was there to help develop man, because man for himself did not have an example. He didn't have a model on how to raise up. The ancestors had to come show up through the creator. Now look, you got the Homo erectus. Homo erectus equals upright walking man, right? Upright walking man. Now look at the brain capacity again. Look at the brain. Look at the frontal lobe. It's not that fully developed. It's not that fully developed. First book of the first lords, and the name of the first race was Asu because they were of the earth only. Now look at this. Important fossil discoveries. After years of searching in Indonesia for the what? Missing link, Dutchman Eugene Dubius finally uncovered part of a skull in 1891 known as the Java Man. What is the missing link? The term missing link was influenced by the 18th century Enlightenment thinkers such as Alexander Pope and Jean Jacques Rousseau, who thought of humans as links in the great chain of being, a hierarchical structure of all matter of life, influenced by Aristotle's theory. The missing link is Aristotle's theory of higher and lower animals. The great chain of being was created during the medieval period in Europe and was strongly influenced by religious thought. This whole missing link. We got to call, the common answer is a missing link. Nigga, that shit was created in the 1800s. I mean, it was pushed during the late 1800s. And it's an Aristotle theory. It's a theory. It's not even a reality. Aristotle's biology is constructed on the basis of his theory of form, which is derived from Plato's theory of form. So now Aristotle got it from Plato's theory of form. So now we're going back to Greek. We're going back to these goddamn Macedonians about this missing link that you've been thinking all this time is a missing link between you and some other species when it's a theory at best. It's Plato's theory of forms, but significantly different from it. Plato's form were eternal and fixed, being blueprints in the mind of God. See that? Aristotle heard Plato's view and developed it into a set of 3 biological concepts. Now, missing link according to the OAHSPE. Book of Jehovah, chapter 6, verse 14, 15, 16, and 18. There alighted upon a new earth millions of angels from heaven. And I said, go and deliver Asu from darkness, and he shall also rise in spirit to inherit my Etherian worlds. And now the earth was in the later days of Simu, and the angels could readily take on corporeal bodies for themselves. By the force of their wills, clothe themselves with flesh and bones out of the elements of the earth. See, when you were high-raised angels, you have the ability to do these things, right? By the side of the Asuan, primitive man, Homo erectus, Homo habilis, Homo sapien, Asu, they took all corporeal forms, right? And look what it states. And they dwelt with the Asuans, primitive man, and were tempted, and partook of the fruit of the tree of life. And lo and behold, they saw their own nakedness, and there was born the first race, Asu, a new race called what? Man. So the missing link that they're theorizing about is essentially when the angels came to raise up man. And these angels interbred with primitive man, producing new offspring. Right? So now, right here, it states, by the force of their wills, clothe they themselves with flesh and bones out of the elements of the earth. So if they did that, that means that they would have had a blood. They would have had a blood. These angels would have had blood. Now, primitive man, the blood types that are known in the animal kingdom is A, B, AB. O blood is a rare blood type. It's a rare blood type, and it's a universal donor blood. That means it could assist all blood types. So with that being said, this will fit the blood type of these angels. Because if these angels clothe themselves with elements of the earth, with flesh and bone and blood, that means their blood would not have no trace to primitive man. There is no lineage, no bloodline tied to the Asuans, to these angels. So the O blood type would make much sense for these angels to have a universal blood type that could assist all blood types on the planet as far as man. Because somebody with A blood cannot give somebody with B blood. Somebody with B blood cannot give somebody A blood. But if you got O blood, you could give it to both. So it makes sense for the angels when they appeared to primitive man, they would have had O blood, the O blood type. You know what I mean? So if you look up old blood, you do a lot of research on old blood, they'll tell you that old blood is a foreign blood type. It's rare. You know what I mean? It's rare in the animal kingdom, but it's present still. So now, this new race is called man, right? Side note, enter the missing link. So now when we come back, after years of searching Indonesia for the missing link, Dutchman Eugene, okay, I just read that, right? Dubious finally uncovered part of the skull in 1891 known as the Java Man. He believed this fossil belonged to an ancient and upright human and so coined the species name Erectus. This is where the name Erectus comes from. Because what? These are upright humans. With the side note in the OAHSPE, first book of the first laws, chapter 1, verse 1 and 11. And the Lord made man what? Upright. Erectus mean upright. So before man was walking upright, how was he walking? Walking upright. Right? This is, we ain't gonna use it. So look, now we're not saying monkeys, and we're not using the monkey theory on this. We're using the walking upright. So if man wasn't walking upright, hold on. There we go. If man wasn't walking upright, then how was he walking? How was man walking? Now, we're not going with the monkey theory. That's out the picture. We're just dealing with the fact that it states that it was a point where man was not walking upright. It said the Lord made man upright. Upright is meaning to stand erected like this. If you ain't stand, let me put. Let me see that. Stupid. Come back to that. So yeah. So if a man ain't walking upright, he's basically hunched over. He's basically hunched over. Trying to find a good picture for it, but you get the picture. Man wasn't walking upright. He wasn't walking fully upright. He was kind of hunched over. Kind of like how the primitive man is. Kind of like how monkeys is. But man, we ain't coming from monkeys, but man was moving like that. Walking monkey. So if man wasn't walking upright on all fours, how was he walking, yo? How was he walking? Again, here's the next verse. And man was thus inspired of the Lord, and he walked upright. Huh? What are we talking about? You tell him, and it makes sense. All right, perfect. God damn it, perfect. Here we go, baby crawling. I was looking for a good analogy, but now I got one. Bam. Which one of you niggas came into the world and had to go through this? Everybody, all nationalities. A baby crawls before he walks upright. So when we read right here in the verse, and it says, and the Lord made man upright, it was at one point when man was like this. Man didn't even have the capacity to know to walk upright. If you watching everybody walking like this, you're not thinking about walking upright. You're not even aware of that. But a baby must crawl before he walks. What makes you think it's any different with primitive man in the beginning? Homo is the Latin word meaning human or man. And in the book of Jehovah 6:8, it says, and there was born of the first race, Asu, a new race called what? Man. What does the word homo mean? Human or man. So the first race of man is coming on the scene, coming out of an older race. The common ancestor would have been Asu, which could have been the octopus. Because there's only three races of humanoid type species. You got the octopus, the arthropus, the pithecus, and the homo. Those are the three families right there. Pithecus mean ape. So you can take that out the picture. We ain't no apes. We ain't no monkeys. For those, just for that argument. We got two more to deal with. Anthropus, which means Greek for man, and you got homo, which means Latin for man. So then you got two races of man right here, the homo and the anthropus. So the anthropus is older than the homo, basically man. So right here, when it says, and there was born of the first race, anthropus, a new race called man, right? The second word in this specific scientific name is erectus. This name was selected to indicate that this species' ability to stand and walk with an upright and erect stance. See that? So they're letting you know that man evolved into walking. There's a whole set of species prior to the homo race, man, the race of man, that was not walking wholly upright, but more stooped and bent over, more like this, more like your baby. Baby got to crawl before you walk. Now look what it states. Book of Sintanti, Son of Jehovah, chapter 8, verse 15, the OAHSPE Bible. Lo, I have looked upon the naked men and women in this great land, crawling on hands and feet, with no thought but to eat. And I have seen them raised up by your Lord and his guardian angels to walk upright. Look what the OAHSPE is revealing, the nature and condition of early primitive man. It said that what? Crawling on hands and feet. Is that too far-fetched from this? Do not you have to crawl on hands and feet when you was a baby? So when the gods came down to visit, to uplift man, when they came at the beginning of these arc cycles, these times of light, and they seen primitive man, they're describing what they're seeing. They're describing the condition of man at the time of their visitation. So when they came, they seen man looking like this. Oh, this is where man at? Oh, damn, we got a lot to deal with. He ain't even learned how to walk yet. He ain't even learned how. These babies don't talk. These children ain't up in there talking about some hey, mommy and daddy. Ooh, ooh, God, God. That's the word of the baby. Ooh, ooh, God, God. That's the word and language of primitive man prior to his development of learning speech, language, and things of that nature. So OAHSPE is letting you know right here how primitive man was in the beginning. This is the book of Sintanti, so we're talking 80,000 years ago. I have looked upon the naked man and woman. The naked, and these babies got on clothes for the sake of the thing. But look, naked babies is described the same way as naked adults in the beginning. I have looked upon naked men and women of this great land, crawling on hands and feet, with no thought but to eat. Huh? I don't think y'all comprehend what's going on here. Y'all so stuck on Adam and Eve, and y'all don't even comprehend if Adam was the first person, he would have been in these conditions. You know what I mean? Nature proves itself. This is nature. Nature proves that you have to crawl before you walk. So when the Creator created man, it was the same conditions for man in the beginning. He had to crawl naked before he walked. And then he had to be in an environment that would have been conducive for his health. He would have had to been in a warm, lukewarm environment. Around the equator region, man would have had to thrive in these earliest times. Because what naked man gonna be out in the cold? He gonna die. So the Creator had to nester, feast man, you know what I mean? Feast him in an area where he could develop before he go out and take on these rigid conditions in other areas. He had to develop first. So OAHSPE is showing you the condition of man, right? Now look at this. Other scientists dismiss this interpretation, preferring to emphasize its ape-like qualities. Dubious opinion was validated when a series of similar fossils were uncovered in China during the 1920s and the 1930s. Fossils of these short and stocky humans, look at that, short and stocky humans with their distinctive skull shape and large brow ridge, have mostly been found in China and Indonesia. Look at that. Look at that. We talking on the side of Pan now. China and Indonesia, that's over there by Pan. The body, known only from the Chinese specimen, tended to be shorter and stockier than those of modern humans. Shorter and stockier. First book of the First Lords, chapter 2, verse 4. The eyes were small and slender. Small, short. Showing you some correlations. Brain shows. Now look at this. Brain show. Look, an increase in size over earlier species, an average about 1050 cubic centimeters. So they show you an increase in brain capacity between the difference coming from the Homo erectus and the Homo sapien. Look at the development of the brain. You remember when I showed you primitive man, the octopus, how much of the frontal lobe it was lacking. Now look how much of the development of the frontal lobe is developed with the Homo sapien. This is why we're capable of doing what we're doing. Reasoning, rationalizing, and memorizing, and compared to our ancestors who did not have that part of the brain fully developed because it was lacking in the frontal lobe. See that? And it got you the metering, the centimeters of the brain to show you how the Homo sapien brain enlarged over time in comparison to our ancestors who had smaller brains. Skull. Face was large with a low sloping forehead, a massive brow ridge, and a broad flat nose. Skull was broad and long with sharp angles at the rear, unlike the curve found in modern humans. So they're showing you some distinction between the brain. Now look, lack of the frontal lobe. Now look at the frontal lobe. This is the Homo erectus. Look at the lack of the frontal lobe. We read the dysfunction of the frontal lobe, right? Now look at the skull of the Homo sapien right here. Look how developed it became over time. The evolution of the brain, the evolution of the skull. It's all dealing with the brain, because if for you to do anything you do and your comprehension, understanding, all that falls on the brain. So if the brain is lacking development, so will be the quality of the person and the race of the species. So you see the Homo sapien skull with a protruding frontal lobe, right? And then when we look at the Homo erectus, we see the lack of the frontal lobe. And what is the look? Homo erectus lacks the frontal lobe. And what is the function of the frontal lobe? Function, skeleton movement, ocular movement, speech control, expression of emotions, reasoning, planning, problem solving. So these niggas the Homo erectus was lacking in this department. Any of the primitive races with the lack of a frontal lobe would have been lacking in these departments, problem solving. That's why at one point you didn't find stone tools with primitive men. But then there came a point where now you find them stone tools with primitive men. That's dealing with the development of the brain. Because if you lack this, you're going to lack problem solving. You're going to lack planning, reasoning, decision-making, judgment, and working memory. You can't build a stone tool if your memory ain't working right. You ain't going to be remember how to duplicate it. So what they're showing you is that the lack of the frontal lobe is what the Homo erectus and early primitive races lacked, is why they couldn't develop and why they stayed in their primitive condition. It was the gods through the creator that helped lift man up from external education to internal genome changes. What would be the behavior of a lacking in the frontal lobe? So what is the behavior? The behavior, speech problem, reduced verbal fluency, lacking insights, and judgment, impulsivity, dishabition, apathy, inappropriate social behavior. These niggas, early man was wild. Difficulty with planning. So primitive man would have had these challenges, difficulty with planning. You remember we just read that in the OAHSPE that they was crawling on their feet and hands and they only thought was to eat. So they ain't thinking about planning, decision making. They're not thinking about that. Impulse control. The only impulse they control is to eat. Social behavior. Social behavior. The behavior between parent and family members. They don't even have that. They don't even know. That's uncle. That's mommy, daddy. They even lack that. Motor functions. Trouble with reasoning. Huh? You got niggas lacking that today. Organizing thoughts and initiating actions. These would have been lacking in the frontal lobe of the Homo erectus. You got the Homo ergaster. Look at the show. Look at the skull. See, all this shit is in the skull. Homo ergaster was the first of our ancestors to look more like modern humans. These people were generally tall and slender. This would have been your Ahuans right here. These niggas would have been your Ahuans if they look more like modern humans. Because today, modern humans, according to the OAHSPE, the Gans. And the Gans ain't nothing more but the goddamn Ahuans. All of it is a mixture with the Ahuans, the drunks, and the irons. And look, and the drunks. And look what it states. These people were generally tall and slender. Book of the first Lord, chapter 2, verse 4. The drunks were tall and stout. See? So even when you research primitive man and research these articles and references, you could tie them with the OAHSPE. You can say, okay, boom, the Homo ergaster, the first of our ancestors, look more like modern humans. And then you see they were tall and slender. And then you see the drokes were tall and stout. Likewise with the Ahuans. The Ahuans would have got that tallness and stoutness from the drokes, their ancestors. And many have been relatively hairless. Not everyone accepts this species name. Some still prefer to use the term African Homo erectus. Homo is a Latin word meaning human or man. It is the same genus or group name as the one given to modern humans, which indicate the close relations between this species and our own. The word ergaster is based on a Greek word meaning work. See, work. So the name Homo ergaster means working man, workman. Even in the Sumerian tales or the Anunnaki tales, it said that they created a man to be workers, to mine gold so they could take back to the Neberu. We heard the story. So see how we could tie all this in? So these are worker men. So you got Homo erectus, upright walking men, Homo habilis, skillful, capable men, and now you got Homo ergaster, working men. See that these are the different classifications of these men that they're concluding to with their finds. This name was used because large stone tools were found near some of its fossils. So the only way they could make stone tools and do these things if their frontal lobe is developed. So they can make decision-making, memory, repeated patterns of doing things. Look what it states. This species, tall, long-legged body with a flatter face, a projecting nose, and somewhat expanded brain, was well along the evolutionary path leading to what modern humans, but still possessed a number of intermediate features. So they're letting you know, even in the terms of evolutionary change, brain expansion, they're seeing changes from these different primitive men being more developed into more modern men. The body is usually considered to be tall and slender with long legs, which may have been an adaptation to maximize cooling of the body in a hot, dry environment. Brain capacity, average brain size was approximately 860 cubic centimeters. So this would have been the brain of the Homo erectus, right? It would have felt in this category, the brain capacity size of the Homo ergaster. Hildeberg, how you pronounce that? Let me see. How you pronounce that? If there's a pronunciation for that on here. There is. Heidelbergensis. Good night. Homo heidelbergensis. All right, I'm going to be remembering that. So now we're going to the Homo heidelbergensis. They got a data from 500 to 200,000 years. I'm not really concerned with the number of years. I'm just showing you the function and behavior of primitive man, regardless if you're going back to 1 million years or a shorter time of years. It's the evolution of man from primitive to more intelligent through the course of time, regardless of what number of years you put on it, is what I'm showing. So here's the Homo heidelbergensis, and you see a little bit of increase in the frontal lobe here. You see a little bit more development in comparison to their ancestors, where it was more flattened. Right at the brow, he just came straight back. Homo heidelbergensis means Heidelberg man. Heidelberg man. Homo is the Latin word for human or man, as we know. Heidelbergensis is the Latinized word for Hildenberg, the city in Germany where the first Homo heidelbergensis fossil was discovered in 1907. So the name Heidelberg is just the name of a city in Germany. So they just found another primitive man in Germany, right? So we really don't have a real name for it, but these humans evolved in Africa by 500,000 years ago. Some populations were in Europe. They lived and worked in cooperative groups, hunted large animals, and made a variety of tools, including stone hand axes and wooden spears set with stone spearheads. Now, the only way they could have done this is through the development of their frontal lobe. Body. Fossil evidence regarding body size and shape is currently limited, but leg bones indicate they were tall, reaching about 180 centimeters in height, and had relatively long legs like their earlier ancestors, the Homo erectus. Coming back to the drunks, first book of the first laws, chapter 2, verse 4, but the drunks were tall and stout, showing you the connection with these ancestors. The shiny bone thickness and bony rigid indicate that these people were strongly built. Strongly built. Let's go to the OAHSPE, first book of the first laws, chapter 3, verse 24. What does it state? And a new tribe began on the earth, and they were called Ahuin. The Ahuin were red like copper, and they were taller and what? Stronger than any other people in the world. So here we associate these people, the Ahuins, with the very however you pronounce it, the niggas who they found the primitive men who they found in Germany. But his description is associated with the Ahuin and the drunk, being tall and stout. And then it says they were strongly built, and we see in the OAHSPE that the Ahuins were taller and stronger than any other people in the world. So we're showing you the connection with these primitive men, tying it to the OAHSPE's primitive men. Brain size. The brain was large, averaging approximately 1250 cubic centimeters in size, representing 1.9% of their body weight. So their brain capacity would have fell within the capacity of the Homo sapien brain right here, within this capacity, right? Frontal and parietal lobes of the brain were enlarged and may indicate an increase in brain complexity. See that? So now man is able to do more things. Now you see more tools, more developments coming from man due to the enlargement in brain complexity. So the evolution of man, the focus is not in the genome, it's in the brain. It's in the capacity of the skull, the shaping of the skull, making sure that frontal lobe is developed in order to do these complex things. Because if the frontal lobe is lacking, you're going to be lacking in what? Decision-making, planning, long-term memory, short-term memory. See that? It's a brain thing. Skull, small post-orbital construction behind the eye socket, a moderate double-arched brow, rigid, and a short, sloping forehead lay above the eyes. The brow ridge was more arched than that of their earlier species, the Homo erectus. So they're showing you an evolution through skull and brain capacity. That's where the real change coming at. The sloping forehead resembles those found in earlier species rather than the vertical forehead of modern humans. So now when we come to the forehead, we see what? An increase of the frontal lobe. We see an increase in the frontal lobe when dealing with the Homo erectus, the Homo heidelbergensis, the one they found in Germany, we see an increase in the frontal lobe, which will allow them to have these capabilities to do what? Function of the frontal lobe, once again, skeleton movement, ocular movement, speech control, expression of emotion, very important, reasoning, planning, problem solving, decision making, and memory working and judgment. So these are the things that are now more effective and more inducive to the coming modern race of man due to the development of the frontal lobe, the evolution of the brain. Again, it says, look, interrogating sensory, knowledge of numbers and their relationships. All this has to do with the increase of frontal lobe, ability to perceive, analyze, synthesize, manipulate, and transfer visual patterns and images. All that has to do with what? An increase of the frontal lobe. So when we come back up and it says man right here, when it states right here, it states they lived and worked cooperative groups, hunted large animals, and made a variety of tools, including stone hand axes and wooden spears set with stone spearheads. That's due to the fact of the increase of the frontal lobe in the brain capacity. Because now they're capable of what? Problem solving, decision making, judgment. See that? Knowledge of numbers and their relationships. Yeah. And here's a cross comparison of primitive ancestors to moving, evolving ancestors coming down the line of history. So you see the lack of the frontal lobe right here, and then we see an increase of the frontal lobe right here. So the lacking of the frontal lobe would have been lacking in what? They would have been lacking in what? Knowledge of numbers and their relationships, problem solving, decision making, judgment. That's why you don't see no stone tools with the earliest primitive man, because they didn't have the knowledge and the know-how. They didn't have the memory and the capacity to think that far. All they wanted to do was what it states, eat. So we're showing you the evolution of man through the skull and the brain and the capacity of knowledge and knowing that comes with that. Now look, we got the jaws and teeth. The jaws were shorter than those of earlier species, resulting in a face with only a slight projecting lower jaw, was strongly built. Now look, it says the lower jaw was strongly built for the attachment of strong chewing muscles. Now look at that. Lower jaw was strongly built. Now let's go to the Book of Wars Against Jehovah, chapter 21, verse 1. I do this, and look what it states. Persia was a mighty people with very giants, lofty bearing men and women, who were red, copper colored, with an abundance of long black hair, high in the nose and cheekbones, with what? With determined jaws and eyes to charm and command. With determined jaws. Why would they express that? They're showing and describing you the feature of the Persians at this time, and they have determined jaws. And right here, coming back to the primitive, it says the lower jaw was strongly built, showing you a correlation with these Persians with determined jaws. These are the ancestors of these same people coming on down. This is the Homo heidelbergensis, the heidelbergensis we're talking about, with these traits. The strongly built, like the Ahuans, the strongest built. And the Persians is Ahuans. Determined jaws. So we're showing you a connection. You just got to know how to put it together. Now we come to the Homo neanderthalis. Look at this brain, more developed. A 45-year-old skull discovered in France 45,000 years ago. So now we're talking pre-flood. We're talking around the time when the continent of Pan was in the Pacific. Now look what we have here. A 50,000-year-old skull discovered in 1909 in France. This skull of an elderly male has the feature associated with classical European Neanderthals. But look, you see a slight increase of the frontal lobe. Not as much you see on the Homo sapiens sapiens, but you see a slight increase. You see a slight change in the brain in comparison to the ancestor. Neanderthal coexisted with modern humans for a long period of time before eventually becoming an extinct about, look, 28,000 years ago. They became extinct right before the deluge. Right before the deluge, they became extinct. Did not the Ahuans go extinct? Did not a race of the Ahuans go extinct? And they had to be regenerated again? Well, I should be talking about that. But here we have in documented history that the Neanderthals went extinct prior to the flood. Right? And then we have evidence of Neanderthals after 28,000 years ago. So they're showing you an extinction and a reoccurrence, just like in the flood. You see the flood took place, and you see the reoccurrence of the Druze after the flood. So now, let's move forward. The Homo florens, and I put ions. Look at the frontal lobe. It's even protruding more. The Homo florens, I put ions. Now let's see why. To 18,000 years ago. 18,000 years ago would fit the time of Apollo. When Apollo came, brought symmetry, harmony, and music to man, and the evolution of the genome of man, the physiology of man. The name Homo was Latin for man. The species named Florence recognized the island of Florence in Indonesia, where the remains were found. They are commonly referred to as what? Hobbits, after the Lord of the Rings character in reference to their small size and large feet. What did the OAHSPE say? First book of the First Law, chapter 2, verse 4. And the eyes were what? Small and slender. And these Homo florenses are what? Small in size. They're described as hobbits. And they go back to what? 18,000 years? See that? Now look. The humans date from about 100 to 60,000 years old. But archaeological evidence, mostly associated stone tools, suggests Homo florens lived at Langbu from at least 190,000 to 50,000 years ago. Recent dates published in Nature, March 2016. Right? So now, nicknamed the hobbits, this diminutive species lived on the island of Florence in Indonesia from at least 95 to 13,000 years ago. See that? That placed the time period from the creation of Asu, the birth of the Ions and all that, past the flood, past Apollo, and this is roughly 13,000 years ago. That's like around a little Fraggle Patty, around that time, probably towards the ending. And perhaps from much earlier. Its discovery in 2003 occasioned a great deal of publicity and multiple attempts to explain such an unexpected creature. Its discovery is classified as a Homo florens, a man from Florence, and believed to be a dwarf subspecies of Homo erectus. Coming back to the OAHSPE, it says, look, believed to be a dwarf subspecies of Homo erectus. Book of Jehovah, chapter 1, verse 4. And the name of the first race was Asu, because they were of the earth only. And the name of the second race was Ion, because they were capable of being taught spiritual things. So it's showing that the Ions are descendants of Asu, while it's showing you that these dwarf are subspecies of Homo erectus. Showing you that somewhere that they all connected. Right? They all connected. The remains include a large complete skull with skeleton with skull LB1 and parts of at least 11 other individuals. These remains come from different levels of range in date from 100 to 60,000 years old, and arm bone from a deeper level and dating to about 74,000 years old is provisionally assigned to Homo florens. So look at that. Now we got 74,000. That's right around the time when man was created. That's their last. Man was created 78,000 years ago. From that time period, we're talking about 4,000 years previous. We see these species. Now here, we see the evolution of the skull. We see the evolution of the skull. Now you see the Australopithecus. Now this is the Australopithecus. Now I showed you in the beginning that Pithecus refers to ape. So when you look at the skull of the ape, they have no frontal lobe. They're very lacking in the frontal lobe. That's why the apes and the monkeys can't do the shit we do, because they don't have the frontal lobe capacity that we got. Look at the Homo sapiens down here. Look at the frontal lobe of the Homo sapiens. That's why we're capable and we're smarter than the gorillas, the monkeys, due to the frontal lobe, due to the brain. So you got the Australopithecus, right? All these are Australopithecus, but then when you come to the Homo habilis, you see the development of the frontal lobe. You see the development, some of the frontal lobe in the Homo erectus and the Homo sapiens. You see the full development. That's why we over here building skyscrapers and all that is due to the brain capacity. See that? Due to the brain capacity. You know what I mean, fam? That's what we dealing with right here, fam. That was a lesson I had sitting for a minute. I just ain't go through it. I never even completed it. I said, I'm gonna just run through this shit. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we have to do. Run through this rise. It's a blood cleat vibes. What, my camera stuck? Oh, okay. It's a blood clot vibes. Yeah, family. Yeah, family, you know what I mean? So that's the beautiful thing about the lessons in the OAHSPE, right? Because once you get deep into the lessons or the teachings, and then you're able to cross-reference the species and the races of primitive men with the OAHSPE, you start to see how we come together. You know what I mean? All this had to do with brain capacity. Peace to the righteous God, Cosmo and Cal, man. Hey, yo, you want to hop on? Hop on for a minute, King. Hop on. I ain't seen nobody. I didn't even know who was in the chat because I was just reading. Oh, Jamie in the building. Peace to the righteous sister. Yes, we got DC's finest in the building. My nigga Thustra, what's good? Yeah, exactly. Now, see, what's mystical about the Lords of the Rings, now that you bring that up, Yahweh, is that the events surrounding the Lord of the Rings is pre-Diluvian. That's like pre-Pan, before the continent of Pan. You know what I mean? When the hobbits and the Aints was running around on the surface dominant. You know what I mean? Let me drop the link if anybody want to hop on for a second. Anybody want to hop on for a second? I'm going to drop the link. You know how we do. It's a vibe. I'm going to have to change the title of this video to the evolution of the brain. That's where the real change coming at. The evolution of the brain. We thought it was in the gene. We thought it was in the blood. We thought it was in the DNA. No, the whole time it was in the brain capacity, skull capacity. You know what I mean? It's a blood clot vibes. Peace to the righteous God, Cosmo, Cal, the cloud kicker. What it do, King?
Man, this was a good build, bro. I caught the crazy part is they did. Can you hear me first of all?
Yeah, I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Yeah, man, that's weird.
Yeah. That's
hold on.
Oh, there you go.
Hold on one second.
Let me grab my drink real quick.
What up, though?
What it do?
Peace to all the righteous gods, man. Peace to all the righteous gods, Nirvanian goddesses, man. Hey,
The cloud
another
kicker.
fire build.
Yeah, it was interesting how a lot of these primitive races got a lot of association with the Asu, the Aints, the drunks, and all that in the OAHSPE. You know what I mean? So I was like, yo.
And my thing is, we don't see a lot of that explosion. You dig what I'm talking about? Into the various people groups of thinking men prior to the iron. So the guys with the sloped heads and the receding frontal lobes and all that stuff. To my idea, these are your hominids and your hominins. You dig what I'm talking about? And when you find a very vast group of these types of these people. You dig what I'm talking about? When just you see a bunch of different types early, and then it whittled down to about 4 types. It just whittled down to maybe 4 or 5 major types, right? From all these different groups. Right. And it whittled down. And then after that, you just start seeing man with the full forehead, big man, tall man, little man. My thing is, what just tripped me out? What tripped me out was you said that the date was 74,000 BC for this hominy, for this little hobbit, this little.
Right.
Listen, bro, if you run that back from using today's date, that's 72,000 BC.
Bruh.
If you
hey, when I see that 74, when I started seeing them like dates that's coincided with what OAHSPE said, I said, yo, Cosmo gonna have a field day with this shit. That's why I said at one point I was like, I'm not really pressing the dates on this issue. I'm just showing kind of the evolution of the change of the skull. Because we can place niggas can play the number game with the dates. But we know the time period. OAHSPE say that all these things transpire with men in this previous garden.
Yeah.
So when we get down to dates that is more reasonable and more rational, it's like, okay. When I see that 74, I was like,
Yeah. So I just start doing a little math. You dig what I'm saying? And I'm like, ain't no way OAHSPE is doing this in 1881.
Oh.
Bro, there's no way in hell JBN knew any of this. He couldn't have, bro. You dig what I'm saying? So
yeah, ain't no way in hell. Let me tell you something. I don't think he fully understood what he had when he had it. For us to be living in the Cosmon era now, and we got access to define these, you know what I mean, these definitions in the OAHSPE, or, you know what I mean, the research. There ain't no way in hell John Blanc bro understood all that at that time. If he did, well, he would have been a cold-blooded dude. But even the dude who introduced me to the OAHSPE, when he introduced me to the OAHSPE, and I seen him again, I done ran through the book. He ain't even finished the book.
Hey, Selah, you know your picture jumping a little bit.
Yeah. I gotta get a new cam. I think the wire
something loose on it.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to retire him and get a new one. that ether energy, goddamn, burning out the goddamn frequency up this joint.
And look, and this is so dope, because what's dope about OAHSPE is we know evolution as it stands is BS.
Right.
It doesn't work, but things can, in a sense, evolve with help. Right. You dig what I'm talking about? It doesn't.
And coming to Apollo, because Apollo changed the whole landscape of this whole shit, according to what OAHSPE is saying. Like, nigga, before that, y'all niggas was looking like this. Now,
and Apollo proved the power of the mind. He approved the power of the mind.
Facts.
You did what I'm talking about, and he goes on to prove during this time that the thoughts of the woman shape the physical shape of the child in the womb.
All through the
so until you see something better, you can't comprehend something better.
That's right.
That's crazy. You know what I mean?
They made statues of perfectly formed, figured men and women, so the females could induce, go into a trance of the image and imprint it in their thoughts, and in return mold the seed. I said, come on, bro. That shit deep as hell right there.
It's good to know too. Also, 72,000 years ago. Oh, one second, Selah. Hold on. I'll be right back, bro.
All right. We got the cloud kick on here, dropping this information. You know how we do. And what's interesting about this right here is that it resorts down to 3 species. From these 3 species, you get the multiplicity of numerous species. Just like a dog. You know, a dog stems from this area then interbreeds and creates a multiplicity of dogs. So right here, this is the catcher right here. Right here, this right here, this is the catcher. The three classifications, the Anthropus, the Pithecus, and the Homo. I don't care how far back you go dealing with man is going to result to one of these. They're going to fall in one of these three categories. If we're talking about the Australopithecus, okay, we're talking about the Pithecus. If we're talking about the Homo sapien, the Homo erectus, Homo habilis, okay, we're talking about the Homo side. We're talking about the Anthropus, we're talking about, okay, over here. But out of the three classifications of these species, the oldest is the Anthropus. And Anthropus is Greek for human. And they classify the oldest Anthropus, the Sahel Anthropus chadensis, dated to 7 million years. That's the oldest on record we have of man.
Y'all go check out, if y'all want to make some of these carbon dates make more sense to you, y'all go check out Cosmon Cal. I got a video, a short video, and I got a long video on called rational carbon dating. Right. So if you want to put this stuff on a timeline and make it make sense, and then the crazy part is OAHSPE gonna blow your mind because it's gonna put everything on a timeline and make it make sense. These great vast times that they telling you about, they're not as long as you think they are.
Because although it says 7 million years old, if we were to put that in perspective with the cycles and seasons of Creator, we know that's off. We're not saying it's impossible, but we know that's off because if that's 7 million years old, it would have to be an evolution from primitive to modern within that 7 million to show the rise and fall of man and then the extinction, and to show the same thing 6 million, 5 million, 4 million, 2 million. You have to show the creation of man and the extinction of man within those ranges of those millions of years. You know what I mean? So if you're telling me 7 million years straight coming on down, we know that's off.
Yeah. And then you know, we can't even trust carbon dating. That's what they're using to date a lot of these fossils. You dig what I'm saying? But it's a tool. It's a tool that is used. You dig what I'm talking about? It is viable and it does throw a date. But how you make that make sense? You dig what I'm talking about? And then what we end up finding out as faith is that doing this carbon dating, especially when you're dating back onto the planet, right? You gone? Yeah. Oh, I thought you was all right. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. All right. My bad, bro.
No, you good.
But what we found out is a lot of times with this carbon dating thing, you dig what I'm saying? They give us these crazy dates, and especially when you're using, you're trying to find dates of the earth, things that deal with the earth. You dig what I'm saying? We use the greater count called the Gadol, 24,000 year count. Right. So for every, this is how we break it down. For every 100 million years carbon dated, right, is only roughly 24,000 actual years. So when they tell you man is 300 million years old, 330 million years old, you start to extrapolate.
Right.
You did what I'm talking about. And what you find out is, go ahead, bro.
Let me add on. I'm gonna let you finish it, bro, because I want to interject onto what you're saying. As far as you're right about the how they exaggerate the time. Muffin hush. Because look, I just put in how long does it take for a human skull to disintegrate? A human skull can take anywhere from a few decades to hundreds of years to completely disintegrate. So if you're telling me it could take a couple of 100 years for a skull to completely disintegrate, where are we getting 7 million years from? Where are we getting 7 million years from? How long does it take for a skull to decompose? In neutral pH soil or sand, the skeleton can persist for hundreds of years before it finally disintegrates. When you look up the disintegration of skulls and bones, you're going to see that none of it goes back to millions of years. All of it is within the spans of hundreds of years. I ain't even see 1,000 damn near. Depending on how one preserves, how the Egyptians preserved it, that shit may last longer. But if we're talking about primitive man and he ain't know how to bury and all that, and niggas just die in this, throw dust in, nah. Ain't no way in hell we talking about 7 million years old when we just read. And I'm sure there's proof of research of this, that skulls disintegrate within a couple decades to a couple hundred years. It didn't even say like 10,000 years the human skull will disintegrate. It didn't even say that. It'll take 100,000 years for the human skull to disintegrate. It ain't say that. It said from decades to hundreds of years. You on mute, King? You on mute, Cal?
Oh, my bad. And that's in pH neutral sand. Where you gonna find a bunch of that at? You dig what I'm talking about?
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
So,
because a lot of soil is on the acidic side.
Super acidic.
You know that because you a farmer, so you know what it is.
Super acidic. And many times you got to amend it. You dig what I'm talking about? But it's got something in it. It's not neutral. You dig what I'm talking about? And even if you play it too alkaline the other way, it'll kill everything too.
Exactly.
So you dig what I'm saying? This is how you know it's rhyme and reason to all this stuff, man. It works too perfectly.
Right.
And then once you get to applying this OAHSPE science, you dig what I'm talking about? Hey, listen, boy, I had them boys baffled yesterday. I had them baffled yesterday, bro. Oh man, because they was talking about Atlantis in America, and then of course it got to pyramidal structures. So I asked a very simple question: What is a pyramid, and what does it do? You dig what I'm talking about? Because you telling us all this stuff. You done had this knowledge 1,000 years. Apply that knowledge and make it make sense for some people today. You dig what I'm talking about? It was hush mouth.
He ain't tell you. He ain't none of them niggas asked. When you asked Jabari that shit, that nigga looked at you like you was crazy.
Right. Show me that pyramid science. Oh, you the pyramid builder? All right, show me the pyramid science.
What niggas was doing in the pyramids? That's the question. They don't even know that.
They don't know nothing.
Yo, explain to these niggas quick, fast. What the pyramids is about.
Firstly, the pyramids were about healing. They're about healing. And the initial thing that they did originally, the original purpose of the pyramid is a school. That's the original purpose. But a byproduct of it just being the shape it is that it created what is commonly known as orgone, or what we know as vortexian energy, negatively charged ionic particles, right? That is in the air and in the water running through the ground and into the pyramids. A lot of people don't know there's water around the pyramids, just like a lingam. You dig what I'm talking about? And that energy can be dumped into the water or pulled directly out of the air, or pulled just like the pyramid is doing, right? Pulling the energy directly out of the ground, right? What that they didn't know that science is still being used today, right? It's called electrofarming. You want to make your stuff bigger or more fresher,
hey, I'm about to do that shit,
super tasty, super big.
I got some schemes for this motherfucking farming shit, yo.
Man.
I'm definitely gonna need your assistance. You know that.
Yeah, and listen, this stuff is so easy. It's so easy. See, like once you do it once, you just leave it there. You don't gotta move it. You ain't gotta do nothing. Every year, you just put whatever you trying to grow back into the ground, and it's gonna go. I'm telling you, like let's say if your plant, usually I'm just saying because of the screen, right? If it's usually this big, right? Using electro farming, it's going to be this big. Triple the size. If not quadruple, I guarantee you triple. And then the crazy part is if you run that across your whole bed, like a pyramid, up, V, up,
Vortex,
V,
boy,
up.
that vortex wave.
Listen, I had them boys baffled yesterday. You dig what I'm talking about? They was trying to, I got haters. You dig what I'm saying? You got haters. And what I found out is that because we are intelligent, that is why they hate. No other reason. They like us for every other reason.
Right.
Cosmon cool, Selah cool. They don't be never on no mess. They don't, other than that, but they think they know everything.
The thing is that like we got a system in order. See, they don't have a system in order like we got. So if you ask us a million times over the same thing, we're gonna give you the same answer every time.
Same thing, over and over again. And then what they don't like is
Go ahead.
No. What I'm saying is, bro, what they don't like is we can always prove what we saying. We never in no belief. We ain't talking about what we think. Right. You did what I'm talking about. And if we don't know it, we don't say it.
Yeah.
Especially online.
Right.
Like if we talking our beliefs, I would talk that to my brother. I ain't gonna say that to y'all.
Right.
Cause we'll go and he'll bounce. He's like, man, that stuff's stupid. That's fire. Or you dig what I'm talking about? We can go there. You dig what I'm talking about? Try to comprehend on them higher levels. You dig what I'm saying? And but I wouldn't say stuff that I knew the people who listening couldn't follow. Right? So when you're able to break something really technical down to and make it very small and make it very simple that even a child could understand it, they hate that. Yeah. And then I'm saying, look, here, let me show you this book of why I'm saying what I'm saying. Let me show you this. Why I'm saying what I'm saying. Let me show you this scientist. Let me show you this. And then we be on what I found out here, Selah, and I'm gonna let you cook on this.
Now go ahead. You good.
The stuff as faith is, we think on every day, right? I'm gonna tell you 90% of the world has never even thought about, heard of, comprehended, tried to comprehend on, bro. Like we be, what it is, and then we got a whole nother, and then we got a whole nother lingo we got to convert back into what they're talking about. So we don't agree with the world. We don't agree with the scientists. We don't agree with the gods, and we saying something different than every other one of them, man. And listen.
You know
the
what?
way we think is just
beyond reach. Hey, you said something that was powerful. Though. You was like, yo, there's only two creation stories. The Big Bang Theory and the Bible shit. Before you said that, I never thought about that, bro. I was like, damn, nigga, you right.
That's it. Ain't no other cosmogonies out there.
Yeah. And then you got and then you got the OAHSPE.
Nigga, hold on. Nigga, you got me so geeked the other day. Ooh. Yeah. Selah had me so geeked that y'all listen. They found Neat Hotel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I said, nigga, you gotta do a live on that, bro.
Yeah, I gotta do a live on that, bro. Listen.
Touch on that shit.
I know. Just quickly, just so y'all understand what we're talking about. OAHSPE gives us a breakdown and a way to explain who the pre-dynastic rulers are. You dig what I'm talking about? From pre-Narmer all the way to Thothma, who they call Khufu, the pyramid builder, right? All of that. It gives us a way to break it down, right, and put it on the timeline. Well, the second. So it's Narmer, who would have been dynasty 0. He would have begun in the very first dynasty. Narmer would have been 0. The first ruler after him, his son, was named Hor-Aha, right? OAHSPE is the very first book in the world that tells you that the next ruler after that is named Rabek, a female.
Yeah, Rebecca,
right?
Rebecca, yeah.
But she takes on the Egyptian titulary name Neith or Neith-hotep in remembrance of her grandmother. Her grandmother would be the wife of Narmer.
Yo, that'd be crazy.
The wife of Narmer, Neith-hotep, her granddaughter, who is the daughter of Hor-Aha, the very first ruler, she got found.
That's why I said you got to do a live on that shit.
She got found, bro. OAHSPE, the very first book in the world that lets you know that that person is a female. Now, on the Egyptian kings list, they called the name Djer. D-J-E-R. Djer Horus, right? That's the name that they give it. You did what I'm saying for Neith, but they explain Neith through Hor-Aha's life, but then Neith disappears, right? But why she doesn't, in a sense, disappear, she takes on another royal title, being the ruler, right? Of the second dynastic ruler as Djer. And they found her, bro.
That's what I said. You got to do a live
they
on
found her. That's crazy.
You handle that shit right there because you got all that shit in memory about this, that, and the third. What we got to do is just display the timeline and just put that shit together on a time chart and shit.
Yeah, bro.
What's good?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, man? What's happening?
Peace.
What up, though?
With you, brother?
Peace. I'm all right. I just happened to have been scrolling. I had tuned in. It was something about what the brother had said, Big Cloud, about like the creation story, about like the Big Bang thing and all that. But you also got to remember there's other creation stories from the natives, also like the Aztecs and the Indians. You also got to remember those things was wiped away from all the colonizers and the European people. So it's hard for us to reach into that and actually share our perspectives on those kind of things, though. Other than that, I was still following along with what else he was saying. I'm still learning on that. I just started reading the OAHSPE and all that, so you know what I mean. I'm starting to break down more and more and understand what's actually happening, especially when it comes to the word of the Bible.
Facts, yeah. It's a long read, you know what I mean? Just take your time, no rush. You know what I mean? Just free your thoughts when you read, because I see a lot of people, they get caught into the stigma surrounding the book instead of actually like indulging it, challenging it. Because it's going to challenge your beliefs, it's going to challenge your idea of reality, your idea and concept of what a God is, or what a Lord is, or even the Creator. It's going to bring you to the Creator, because the way the Creator is basically expressed in the OAHSPE, there is no other book so far that express and identify a Creator like the OAHSPE does. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, we've been taught that God is the Most High for basically all our lives. A man sitting on the throne, and he's a man of war and this, that, and the third. But then when I came across the OAHSPE, it challenged that belief. But if I would have been stuck in that belief, I would have, and then I would have been not able to, rationalize something outside of what I grew up believing. You know what I mean? And that goes with the Quran. That goes with any holy book. It's just distinguishing what you could extrapolate. That makes more sense with creation, Creator, what happens when we die, what is the meaning to this shit, real life shit, you know what I'm saying? And OAHSPE got those answers, man, and that's why we really go hard with the information, because it's like a freedom, it's a great freedom when you understand that after you die, this possibility in this realm of existence is here for you if you're a righteous and good person, or if you're running around here doing things that are harming people and taking lives. There's an afterlife and a realm for that as well. But you could be purged and redeemed from that. You're not going to be there forever. Just like jail, you may get locked up. Some brothers come home and get their life straight and may be an advocate for other young kids to do the right thing. It's that same principle within the spirit realm and the life after death. It's a big progression and a big step. Ancestors, like all our ancestors who done passed on, They in the spirit world still progressing, trying to figure this shit out. They're just in another realm with it. You know what I'm saying?
And I just want to clear one thing up with the brother. I understand what you're saying about creation myths. That ain't what I said though, right? There are multiple creation myths. Native and indigenous and others. You dig what I'm talking about? There are 1,000 creation myths, but there are only 2 cosmogonies. 2.
Mm-hmm.
You dig what I'm talking about? That's the one found in OAHSPE and Big Bang.
Tell them, break down what is a cosmogony? So, because not everybody.
Cosmogony is it deals with the creation of the cosmos, but specifically our solar system.
Mm-hmm.
How the sun, moon, stars, and all this that's right around us was created. There's only 2 places or 2 sources on the earth that attempt to tell us the how, when, where, and what of how a planet is made. Or you dig what I'm talking about? Or you see what I'm saying? That's called cosmogony. So it's only 2 of them, but I get it. There's thousands of creation myths, though.
Right. I understand where you're coming from now, because that's why I started to read the OAHSPE, because of the way how it breaks things down. It's also, it helps like to fill in the blanks. Like as far as I know,
that's
like
what it do.
And like the Big Bang, I never really I always question the Big Bang because it just is.
It ain't make no
kind
sense.
of mind-boggling.
It ain't make no sense.
Right.
It
doesn't
make no sense.
I don't understand how can this be created when it was already created. So therefore, I always understood that there was one actual real story. You see what I'm saying? Like I also understand, like in the Bible, especially like the brother said over here, where he was talking about like whether God was a evil God or a good God. But what I got out of that whole Bible was when I broke it down and read it, it was more basically describing a person that they did not name, that he was basically the ruler of that country or the people, them civilizations at that moment of time. You know, I also understand too that we are the temple as well, you know what I mean? And God is also within us, that we also the creators of our own worlds as well. You know what I mean? So again, like I said, I'm starting the beginning of the OAHSPE and figuring the breakdown of the cosmic entities and how it plays in part with our human nature.
That's right. Yeah. Because there's a systematic order, it's a hierarchy. So it's when the kingdoms are set up, but just like a government kingdom on earth, you have the president. He's the ruler of the whole country. So a god will be classified a ruler of the whole planet. He's in charge of all 7 continents per se. And then you have 7 continents, the Lord gods.
Let me give it to him. Let me give it to him, Selah.
Go ahead.
Let me give it to him. Real simple, so you can understand how Creator creates and runs planets, right? Creator, who we will call the owner, right, creates Earth where men exist, right? We're going to call them Fortune 500 companies, right? The owner creates a Fortune 500 company, right? Under him, the guy who runs the everyday running and makes sure everybody in there is good and advancing, right? The CEO, right, is equated to God. Below God, the guy who makes sure the things between God and the earth work right has a title of Lord God. He would be your CFO, right? Or your president, right? And below him, who works directly with man, right? And would be the third man in the totem pole, right? He it would equate to the Lord. He would be your vice president. So you got your CEO, your president, and your vice president. Those would be God, Lord God, and Lord. And then you have the owner, the creator, over top of them, who created and owns the business. And they all, God, and Lord, work for the creator.
Right. The creator's not a man above them, like watching down. How it works is that there's other higher hierarchy system of angels that'll come and present the order, set up the order, and leave that in charge of those who he just resided to. So we never see the creator. All we're dealing with is other advanced angels that got knowledge of the Creator that may be a little bit more advanced than us, they may guide us to the way or set up something in charge that is coming from the Creator. And that's an inevitable thing. It's just continuous. There's no beginning.
Yeah, because
there's no hitch to it. There's no beginning to it, no end to it. So you may come across an angel that may be 1,000,000 years old. You may come across a nigga that died yesterday. You may come across a nigga that is innumerable to even number because we ain't even got a number to count because
we don't got a number that high. Right,
so in the aspect of creation, when we look up in the night sky, when we see creation, that is an endless realm with no beginning and no ending. It's just infinite possibilities. But there's a process to how all that is created, and that process how all that is created is one universal order. That's the beautiful thing. So we don't get lost in time and space. We know that vortexian current is the force and power that create all things in the cosmos. And we know that's that vortex.
And that's above, and that's as above, so below. What we're saying is the same way you make a sun is the same way you make a son. The same way you make a child is made is the same way a planet is made. There's no difference. There's no difference. The same force creates both.
Let me pull up the screen and show them an example because the visual is the most beautiful.
Yeah, the visual crazy.
So like the Creator in the OAHSPE is described as ever present. You know, Book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 9, verse 12, it says, "Who is Jehovah?" Verse 13 states, "The ever present, he fills all place and space." And when we look up the definition of the word ever present, it says used to describe something that is always there. So something that is always there has no beginning and no ending. And here's an example, just a small example of something that has no beginning, no ending. This is how creation is expressed. But if you notice, each galaxy is a spiraling vortex. Each and every one of those galaxies are a spiraling vortex. So when we come down and it starts to talk about creation, like right here in the Book of Jehovah 3:6, it says, "For each and every corporeal world, I created a vortex first." So when we know we're dealing with creation, we know for a fact that there's a vortex surrounding each celestial body. And coming back to this example, we see each galaxy where the central sun has a vortex around it.
Exactly, yeah.
And then here's another example of spiraling galaxies with vortex surrounding them. So this is one universal.
All of that is living. That's all living.
Yeah, that's all. That's all in motion. All that is spiraling. Everything is orbiting. Everything is orbiting.
It's in motion. It's moving.
So we're engulfed.
Now, I always had that big question. You know what I mean? Like I always looked at it like if there was the God, who put God there? It had to be somebody higher than him. You know what I mean? Just to put him up, to bring us to the planet to help us. But I always wondered, you know what I mean? Like who created it? Like who created all of this stuff and brought us here? You know what I mean? I knew I always had a feeling that it had to be something more to it, that there was more of a higher connection. You know, I'm also like I have ancestry that's into we call it Santeria. You know, most people call it voodoo or whatever. But you know, we deal with the higher spirits, and sometimes we might use cosmology or maybe astrology in some kind of way. And I always linked that. I felt that it was a link somehow. Like every time radiation flows into the planet, it disrupts our being in some kind of sense. So I always knew somewhere down the line we was connected. And I'm not going to lie that the book actually does help me pinpoint and make the dots and connect these dots.
Exactly, because see, every based off the system in order, you know what I mean. We have guardian angels, guardian ancestors that's assigned to each individual. That guardian angel, the duty of that guardian angel is to record your life, basically. From your birth to your death is recorded by your guardian angel. In the OAHSPE, they call it shards. And then after you die, your information, your record is delivered to the angel that's going to receive your spirit, receive the newborn angel coming into heaven. And then based off your life record, they will place you in an area adapted to your development and growth. And then you'll continue to grow in spirit until it's time to graduate into the etheric realm. So the OAHSPE shows these educational processes from the time you die to the time you become a Lord God, how to become one, just like coming into the earth, and you have the potential to be a CEO, a manager, a supervisor, or maybe even a president. You have those
Right.
possibilities as you grow on the earthly plane. So those possibilities reside in the atmospheric on the plane of the ancestors. So when these ancestors become advanced, they take on the title as lords, take on the title as gods.
Right.
It's
Right.
these high-ranking
But,
titles.
but before a person can take that title, you got to know thyself first.
Oh, most definitely. It's just like school. Before you become a doctor, you got to go through the education and pass in order to become a doctor, to even wear that title as doctor, as lawyer. You know what I mean? In order to wear those titles, you got to go through the schooling, and you got to pass the schooling to carry those titles. So it's the same thing with Lord, Lord God, and other different titles within the office in the heavenly kingdom that you got to earn before you could go and say you claiming that.
Right. Right. I dig it, man. I appreciate y'all, brothers. Let me continue doing what I got to do over here. I just wanted to chime in a little bit. Maybe another time I come in for when you do a live and come in for a longer discussion and stuff like that.
Most
But I
definitely.
appreciate it. I salute y'all. Keep doing your thing.
And salute, King. Anytime, bro. Anytime.
Peace.
Peace. Yes, sir. So yeah, yo. Were you at work, Cosmo?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you cold as hell out there, boy. You said it snowed, right?
Yeah, man, it just snowed this morning. It went crazy.
So, and y'all still got to come out in that snow. If it snow like that in Atlanta, boy, they shutting down the city.
Oh
We
man,
gotta-
listen.
Y'all got it rough out there.
y'all don't want none of this. You dig what I'm talking about? It dropped 4 inches this morning, and then dropped 4 inches last night. So it's a nice little. You dig what I'm talking about? And then it'll just stop, and then next thing you know, we have another one. So I don't even hold my breath in Michigan no more, or actually just hold your breath, because the weather gonna change.
That's right. But look how brothers tapping into the OAHSPE, bro. Niggas chiming in, researching,
Yeah, bro.
looking into it.
Telling you.
You know what I mean? So you gotta keep spreading that
Sometimes
light.
I don't be seeing the work though. You dig what I'm saying? Sometimes I see it, but you know,
Nah, your shit
sometimes I
boy.
get your brother be in some horrible spots. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
With some low drugin folks. You dig what I'm talking about? But
You already know.
they need that light too.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm talking about? Who gonna give it to them if I don't? Don't nobody know they exist.
Yeah, you bring
Or ain't nobody checking for them. Ain't nobody looking for them.
Right.
You dig what I'm talking about? And in America, they some of the most important people.
Facts.
You dig what I'm talking about? So somebody got to talk to them.
Yes, Sirski. Yeah, man.
Man, how many of y'all can say this? That you can go to your job and roll up. Yeah, nigga, I'm doing exactly what I love to do. You dig what I'm talking about? None of y'all ain't doing this.
That part.
What up, boy?
That part. That part. We just vibing out, family. You know how we do. It's the blood clot vibes. Cosmo and Cal in the building. Cosmo and Cal TV. You know what I mean? Hey man, when you gonna come do a joint on the Black World Family TV, yo? It's the blood clot vibes. Flavor Detroit, man. That's the Detroit. That's the D in the building. Y'all better recognize. Open up your eyes. Let me put on a big screen. Yeah. We got Bronze Yoke in the building. Bronze Yoke in the place to be. We just vibing out. You know what I mean?
Salute the Yog, man. Me and the Yog about to collab on some stuff, bro.
Yeah, yo up in the studio knocking them out, bro. Yo in the studio knocking them out. Shit, I'm about to drop me another little video soon. I just got that range to set the shit up.
Yeah, man, I've been supposed to been recording, but me and Kev Capone about to jump back in the O, and it's about to get ugly.
He in Detroit with you?
Yeah, he up here.
Oh, okay, that's what's up. I figured, cause I was like, damn, I think he must be in Detroit. That's what's up.
Yeah, he on the outskirts though, but huh?
He the one who did the Super 7 beat.
Oh no. He did a lot of other stuff that I didn't heard that you probably didn't heard, like that beat that I play in the background on all the Jehovah Chronicles stuff.
Yeah,
he do a lot of that stuff, like the opening to Jehovah Chronicles, the opening, the scene and all that.
Yeah.
He did all that.
I be vibing to that shit, yo. As soon as that shit drop, I'll be in my 90 cypher the 90 cypher sessions and shit. Niggas in a circle like that, doing that shit.
Yeah.
That hip hop shit, boy.
That's what's up.
And I'm about to close out.
Yeah, bro. There's a bunch of snow up here, bro.
I know y'all niggas snowed the fuck in out there. And we was getting crazy ass wind today, though. We was getting some crazy ass wind today.
Hold on, let me see.
Midwest ain't no joke. So ain't. Y'all get it brutal up there, boy. Jaja not playing with y'all in that Midwest snow.
No, man. You ain't playing.
Hey, you got a question? Oh, okay. All right.
Hold on. Let me show y'all. It's mad snow up here. We had to get it shoveled. You're gonna talk about Doug shoveling the snow. Look at the big snow mound.
Yeah,
it's snow everywhere up here.
It's still snowing now?
Yeah, bro. This dropped this morning.
Dang.
All this came just this morning.
Good night. Look at the D.
D, that's 8 Mile and Mile. That's Mound. That's Mound Road. Right here, if I go right here, look, you can probably kind of see it. If I go to the street, you can definitely see it. But right here, straight ahead of me, is a big ass mound called Derby Hill. Because this is Mound Road, right? So go this way. That's Mound. This 8 Mile right here. This the mythical 8 Mile. I'm on 8 Mile, right?
Oh, okay.
But
this
road right here, running this way, is Mound, because all of the mounds and shit, it was a whole bunch of mounds up and down here.
Hold on,
and they still got something. One. Go ahead.
That's 8 Mile the street. You talking about like the movie they made off of?
Yeah, that they made the movie on.
That's that street right
it's
there.
8 Mile. I'm at.
Okay.
Y'all tap in Detroit flavors 5700 8 Mile. See, this the Detroit side. This the Detroit side. That's the suburbs. Right across the street. That's Warren. That's Warren. That's Detroit.
Okay.
Right across the street. This 8 Mile. Famous 8 Mile.
That's crazy, yo.
Yep, this the famous 8 Mile. You dig what I'm saying? So yeah, we got a little bit of everything up here. Strip club right there. Yeah. 2 more dispos right there.
That's right.
You dig what I'm talking about? Parties, those liquor stores, get your gun. Right here on 8 Mile. We ain't gotta go nowhere.
That's what's up, bro. Yeah, they would have shut down the city in Atlanta for that. Ain't no school going for that.
Man, yeah, y'all not missing nothing, man. Y'all not missing nothing. This cold in the mug up here, bro. Stay where y'all at.
Y'all still gonna get more snow, that's it.
Yeah, bro, look, we got to get our stuff shoveled. Look at all that snow.
Damn.
It's crazy snow up here, man. Y'all better listen. That little 2 little inches y'all got, y'all better be thankful.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. We got a Detroit history lesson, but yo, I'm about to push up out of here, man.
All right, bro.
Later on the shit, man. You know, Cosmo and Cal gave us a history lesson in Detroit right then and there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, look, Selah.
What's up?
Hey, look, man, I got some stuff coming out this week, man. Y'all boys jump on, man, and tap in at Cosmon Cal. And we coming up with the new Cushman Cal show. You dig what I'm talking about on the Detroit Bud Tour. So y'all go to IG and tag and subscribe to the Detroit Bud Tour 2. All one word. Detroit Bud Tour 2. And you dig what I'm talking about? Sell, like, share. We got a brand new show coming out. We showing the medicinal properties of the marijuana and how they're gonna be helping people in the future.
Yes,
you
sir.
dig what I'm saying?
Sir.
And then we getting into equity and showing how they got minorities up here growing some of the best in the game. You dig what I'm talking about? We gonna give them some light too. You see what I'm saying? So hey man, y'all just tap in. Hey, Selah.
Talk to me.
Hey man, can you do something for me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, can you breathe in? hey, breathe in, man. Let that light in.
Let that light in.
That's right. Hey, I'm Cosmon, man. I'm out, y'all, man. Salute, bro.
Hey, man. Peace to the righteous God, man.
That's right.
That's my brother Cosmon Cal came through to drop that knowledge. You know what I mean? You know how he do. You know how we do. You know what I mean? So that was the lesson for the day. We tapped in, breaking down the genome of the species of primitive man to modern, showing you how the evolution of the skull played a lot based off the learning, development, how man progressed. All that was done in the capacity of the brain, dealing with that frontal lobe, temporal lobe. You know what I mean? Go back, study this joint. And you know how we do until we get another lesson. Your boy Selah Shalom was shining out. You know what I mean? Before we gonna hit you with them bittersweet herbals. Then we gonna hit you with that Lion of Judah rap. Then we gonna hit you with that Jehovah over I and I. We out of here, family.
Bittersweet Herbals. What it tastes is bitter, but the results are sweet. Bittersweetherbals.com.
Run the rhythm.
Bittersweet Herbals. What it tastes is bitter, but the results are sweet. Bittersweetherbals.com.
Lion of Judah rap. The penile gland holds the power. They plan to crucify me at the 9th hour. Charges against me, attempts to arrest me. Apostate Jews, Pharisees, and Sadducees. I spoke parables to the multitude at Galilee. Paint pictures with parables that'll fill up a gallery. Zealous Jews, killers on a salary. Jealous and confused, heart harking, burning like calories. Restore the blind, raise the dead from the coffin, bruh. But my command make angels sing like an orchestra. The scribes took notes saying I'm a sorcerer. Reports above my head, flying sorcerers. Ascending and descending lights from the Etherian heights. 9th hour daytime turn to midnight. The ground started vibrating hard as the temples and synagogues are destroyed by God. The children of God can make God.
We out of here, family.
In the land of truth and light, where the spirit stands all night, the creator gang shines bright, guiding us with all their might. Trumpets sound across the sky as we raise our voices high, praising the one most high under the OAHSPE's watchful eye. We sing songs of love love and grace in this sacred space. For the Creator again we embrace, their wisdom we chase, with trumpets playing in tune under the silvery moon. We dance until the morning sun, this connection never undone. Harmony in every beat, our faith is concrete. Through the pages of the OAHSPE, ancient wisdom on display, teaching us the righteous way, leading us to a brighter day. With each trumpet blast, we're reminded of the past and the love that will ever last in this divine contrast. United in spirit, we uplift and hear it. We sing songs of love and grace in this sacred space. For the Creator again we embrace, their wisdom we chase, with trumpets playing in tune under the silvery moon. We dance until the morning sun, this connection never undone. We sing songs of love and grace in this sacred space. For the Creator gang we embrace, their wisdom we chase, with trumpets playing in tune under the silvery moon. We dance until the morning